Welcome, everybody, to Gums and Gossip Podcast. My name is Hope. I am your Gum Goddess podcaster. And guess who I have back? I am welcoming back a dear friend. And we just finished up another podcast with lymphatics. And this is Lynn Morales. And she is a naturopathic doctor. And she has a gift for helping people, which I love, and it helps uncover the root causes of health challenges. So her approach goes beyond all the symptoms, and it weaves together the body's physical, emotional, spiritual. It's all the healings, and it weaves together with energetic layers. And so healing can happen at every level. So she specializes in techniques like lymphatic flow work, holistic balancing, body based therapies that address how we really feel in our skin. And if you've ever wondered how your body stores stress, which I store stress, I know other people do too, it's all out there, and how clearing blockages can boost your energy, immunity, and even your mood. So she's got so much wisdom to share. So I'm very grateful to have you back on the podcast. Thank you, Lynn.
Oh, it's such a blessing to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm so thrilled because you have so many stories and so many like unique tips that, listeners and including myself can like learn so much from you. You have such a wealth of knowledge, and just the brief times that I've even spoke to you, I mean, you give such good nuggets, just some really good nuggets of information on how like your body can heal. And I know I typically have like nervous energy. It's just one of those things I tend to shake a little bit, a lot of times. And it has nothing to do with being nervous. It's just the energy, I guess, that we portray. So last time we scratched the surface. And so this time I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit deeper into kind of what you do. And like last time, we talked a little bit about the basics of it. We didn't kind of get into as much. And so I'm so excited to have you back on just to be able to talk about what lymphatics are. Maybe we can kind of start with that and how what lymphatics are. What is your lymph system? Kind of in a little.
Fantastic
Yeah.
question. Fantastic question. So I do want to start off with just so everyone knows. So I'm a naturopathic doctor. I'm not actually a massage therapist, which is what most people think of when they think of lymph. They
Mhm.
might think of lymphatic massage. Now, most people didn't know they had a lymphatic system till after COVID, and then they
Mhm.
went, "Oh, what's that?" And so the lymphatic system, I like to keep things simple. I refer to it as the garbage can of the body. So basically,
Mhm.
it's where physical toxins reside, but also emotional toxins.
Mhm.
And it actually runs more places than the blood throughout the body. And so if you're a male, you don't quite have as many lymph nodes throughout the body, but boy, us ladies, we got them all over. That probably explains the emotional part. And so, when you've heard of people who've had like a breast cancer issue or something, and
Mhm.
often we'll hear them say, "Oh, and they took the lymph nodes," right? And so people might associate lymph nodes with illness or lymph nodes with cancer or something like that. Hey, they're a big part of it all, but boy, if you keep it cleaned out, right, like the garbage can, what you can do is really have it help the body in the immune system be strong. And so we just want to keep it clean, keep it cleared out. Sometimes we see blockages through some of the services that we offer at the clinic. And when we see those blockages, there's only three reasons for it. It's kind of like a beaver dam. So the lymphatic should flow like a river,
Mhm.
and it's very, if you do lymphatic massage, it's a very light touch. And it needs to flow like a river. And when it doesn't flow, it's like there's a beaver dam, and the beaver dam blocks that flow. Well, what happens to a river that's blocked? It
Yeah.
gets kind of stagnant and yucky. And that's what happens in our body.
Is it something that just kind of goes over time? I know we all have our traumas and different things that have accrued. Is it something that there's a better time to do the lymphatic massage, or is it just something that people notice and then they come to you and say, "Hey, we feel like there's a blockage." I mean, what happens?
Well, most people aren't very aware of their body, Hope. That's the sad thing, right? We've gotten really numb to what our body's about. Now, someone like you, I've heard you describe just
Mhm.
how in tune you are, um, maybe with other people's things that are going on, which means you're probably pretty in tune with your own body as well.
Mhm.
But the bottom line is, most people probably could, it's the question of, how often should I wash my clothes?
Mm.
Right? How often should I take a bath? Right? If the outside of the body is, getting dirty, the inside's probably getting dirty too. So many
Mhm.
organs and body parts are there to kind of uh, clean out the toxins that we're exposed to. And so, lymphatic massage, I remember the first time I got one was probably I was 33. So, should you get one every 33 years? I'm thinking more often is better than
Mhm.
every 33 years.
I think, I love how it's like it's the body's cleanup. I mean, I think that's a really important thing. I didn't know, you say being in tune with my body, but I honestly didn't know much about the lymph system. I mean, I know it with the teeth and I know with around, what we check for and all that, but it just I guess it never registered to me like your whole body, I mean, because
Yeah.
I'm more fixated on, the upper area and everything. So, and it does help, we'll get into like what I experienced, but I think it does make people more aware that there are options out there to help you and relieve, the toxins. I think it's incredible. So let's get into the heart. What happens, like emotionally, spiritually, when you're moving the lymph? Is Do you see, like in your clients, do you see anything physical with them? I know after a couple of days, what do you experience?
Yeah, great question. So everybody's different, right? We all have a
Mhm.
unique fingerprint. So guess what? We all have a unique way we respond to services. So in some instances, like what we advertise a lot about the Flow Presso is that it's great, our lymphatic work is that it's great for stress, anxiety, and sleep issues. Um, so some people might notice they sleep better. Some
Mhm.
people might notice they sleep worse after a session, and it's because we just moved a whole bunch of toxins and they're not drinking enough water to get it out, right?
Yeah.
It could be I've had one lady very, very much needed to lose some weight, and she went on our the lymphatic suit that we use, and she lost 5 inches in one session. Now that's not
Wow.
standard for everybody, but if you ever seen people with like edema or what they call swelling in the ankles or
Mhm.
puffiness around the body, that's a great sign that your lymphatic system is sluggish and not moving. And
Yeah.
so that would be a sign. And most people who have that kind of thing going on with legs,
Mhm.
they might feel pain disappears. They might feel that the flow, the swelling goes down. They might not feel as bloated. They might feel really refreshed. Some people, I had a client in the other day. She came in. She was going to talk to me before her session. She ended up talking to me after. She was about falling asleep in front of me, and like for 2 minutes. And it was only going to be a 15-minute session anyway. I said, you know what? You should just go home and take a nap. And that
Yeah.
was after getting the lymphatic moving.
I think I'll give you my experience because I had the flow, presser, and I think my biggest thing was there is a lot of emotional sitting in silence. I think that was like something for me, even though on a daily basis we're just constantly doing and doing and doing, to have a moment to myself, to just sit there and think about myself was it was an emotional trigger almost because I could sit there and you're in your thoughts. I mean, you're comforted because you feel like so warm and everything and you have it's going through, and but it's just the same sense, like tear, like you have the little tears. I had a tear that like went down right down my
Uh
cheek. And it was just that kind of like a
huh.
release of in the moment kind of thing. And you don't realize you need that stillness.
Yeah, exactly. Some people are afraid of it. And there is a huge emotional component that
Mhm.
that the body will release as well. And and with someone like you, you're so there for others.
Mhm.
And sometimes it gets you when you are alone with your thoughts. And now what we're talking about is a lymphatic suit, right? That's got compression and heat
Mhm.
and pressure
Right.
built into it. And so basically you've got it's like compression boots in a hospital that you went through,
Mhm.
but it's compression boots, legs, arms, abdomen, and back.
Mhm.
And so it's like a big warm hug for 40 minutes. Well, when's the last time most people had a big warm hug for 40 minutes just for themselves,
Mhm.
right? And so that's where again, because you're so in tune with others and others people's emotions and pain and things like that,
Mhm.
it probably really got you in tune with, wow, do I take care of myself enough? Because I'm
Yeah.
so there for others.
Yeah. And there's so much, you work so closely like with the body and in healing. And there's a lot of fears. I know, I specialize in fears. And there's a lot of things you were talking about fear of even just being in a room or even claustrophobic. People, I know there's a bell that you can ring, if you had to like, get out of the situation, you're not like bound in there or anything by all means, but it's very comforting and, but there's a lot of fears, that kind of circulate after, it's like, okay. And the fear of even just mentally, like what you're going to do for the week and things like that, like how you're going to get through everything. And it's just such calmness. I don't know, but let's talk about like some of the fears like that listeners maybe have can hold on to like from past dental visits or like traumas from everyday stress. How did fears show up? Like I know for me it did, but do fears typically show up for people when they go in there and take
To
care
do
of their system?
lymphatic work,
Yeah.
well, fears can show up anywhere.
Yeah.
um, But if you think about what I described in the suit itself, right? So you've got compression um, pads, right? They're wrapping the feet separately, the legs separately, the arms separately, the abdomen, right?
Mhm.
So someone who, if someone is claustrophobic, has had a claustrophobia experience, or could be even an epigenetic experience with fear of being bound or feeling like they couldn't get out of a situation, right? We will allow, obviously we can help them take off, the arm compression, so that they don't feel so, oh, am I? Because you look like the Michelin tire man
You
when you're in
do.
the suit. I mean, that let me help the viewers or the
Yeah.
listeners have an opportunity to, what does this look like, right?
Yeah.
So you look like the Michelin tire man. So if you really are feeling fearful, or you are a claustrophobic person, right?
Mhm.
We'll often take those arm mats off of you. But the body will store fear anywhere. It can store it anywhere. Now, the most common place is actually the kidneys. The
Mm.
kidneys are the most common place for fear to be stored. But part of some of the work that we do at the clinic, we call it body talk, where we can actually start to ask the body, where is this? What caused it? How far back is it? Is it even yours? Right? Sometimes it's an epigenetic factor. It's something that came from a mom and dad or grandma or grandpa, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes that's why some people, like you ever see a baby who 1 years old, they have their first cupcake
Mm.
with a candle, right? And suddenly they're afraid of fire.
Mm.
They've never seen fire before. Where did that fear come from? Right? And
Mhm.
that's the epigenetic factor. I think that's what the Bible talks about when we talk about generational issues,
Mhm.
generational curses. Where did a 1-year-old baby who never had an experience with fire get afraid of a flame?
I know there was growing up, I'll tell you, growing up, and even to this day, I've kind of gotten over all that. There was, ever since I was a child, I was always afraid of trains. I don't know where it
Really?
came from. Yeah. And it's funny to sit there and think about. I mean, I rode trains all in Europe. I've been doing, trains ever. But like growing up as a kid, for some reason, I don't know where it came from. It was like a train fear. Like I was going to get run over on a train track. And it's not, I mean, that was from early on. I don't know why.
You should check with your family, check with your parents, go back a few, see if any of them ever had an experience with a railroad
Yeah,
or
I
an
don't
engine or
know. I don't
something.
even know where it came from, but I don't know. But going back to the flow presser, like for the first time being on that and everything, it's like, there's points of you that you feel stuck, not when you're in there or anything, but in life. And I
Right.
think what also helped me kind of visualize is while I was in there, just nothingness, stillness, nothingness. Um, and it just kind of maybe the healing wasn't necessarily there was no fear. For me, there was no fear. Just being in there. And it was just kind of giving your body permission to let go.
Oh boy, that's a big one. Hmm.
Yeah.
And I've seen people, maybe even myself, who lays there, tries to relax, but the mind is racing,
Yeah.
right? And that so many times gets in the way of our healing as well. We have to run on to the next thing. So what are we doing? Well, we're really avoiding probably what we really need to address. Avoiding going a little deeper, which is what the flow presso does,
Mhm.
right? It actually, for many people maybe have never had a lymphatic massage. If you've ever had one done manually by a professional who knows what they're doing, it's a very light touch massage. It's like
Mhm.
they're barely touching you, and you're like, I remember the first time I had it done, I'm like, I just paid for that. I couldn't believe I wanted a massage. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, right? But then you have something like the Flowpresso, which we actually even have a sports mode on it. We use it for sports recovery. So athletes who
Mm.
maybe, do some, you know, big run or triathlon or something like that, they can get in it and it's got like a recovery mode for them. So we have a friend of ours was a lymphatic massage specialist, and she would tell me there's no way I could get as deep as that machine gets because of
Wow.
the way it compresses. And we can control the compression and the heat. So don't worry, we won't squeeze
Yeah,
the life out of you.
no. So I know, like, that rewires your stress responses, but let's bring it back to like dental. I want to go into
Sure.
like the dental and the gums because that's my world.
Yeah.
And so between the dental health, I didn't realize, I don't think we're not necessarily as hygienists, we do head and neck, all the things with, looking for cancers and looking for, there's so much more oral systemic links, but the lymphatic system is fairly new to me to like address, I guess. That people don't realize the connection between like the gums and your health and like I know stress, you clench and grind your
Hmm.
teeth. Sometimes like breathing becomes like irrational, where you have the fears, your chin, your collarbone, all that kind of thing. And even, like, with, chronic gum disease and, dental inflammation, I think everything goes what, kind of explain around the lymph nodes, maybe where everything's located, like, with your jawline, I know, and the neck, and, how, like, relate maybe something about gum disease.
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things. One, there's four main lymphatic drainage points. There's one in each groin area, and then there's one up on the clavicle on either side. 70% of the body drains on that upper left side. And so what we find with the suit, right, the
Mhm.
Flowpresso, is that um, it does a nice job of moving the lymphatics in the order the body wants to dump. So the feet, it starts there, dumps into the groin, and then it comes up the arms and the abdomen and dumps up here into the clavicle area. But not too long after that, the inventor of the Flowpresso came out with something called the Flow Vibrate. And what
Mhm.
that is it's a little handheld device that actually works on a newly found system in the body called the glymphatic
Oh,
system. Yes, which
huh,
is probably very much up your alley, and probably you
yeah.
really want to check into that a little bit more. And what it does is they realize then that it actually is all over the head. This It's like an extension. It's not exactly the lymphatics, but it's the glymphatics, and it's an extension all around. And so, what we do with that flow vibrate is, like I said, it's a little handheld thing. And so we open up these drainage points right here in the clavicle,
Mhm.
and then what we do is we go into the face. It's phenomenal for facial care, right? I mean, and that's what, most people go, oh, I want that for facial care, right? I want my skin to look good because skin's the biggest detox organ there is, right? But what happens is I use it at night for, clenching,
Mhm.
just like you talked about. And think about how many toxins are in the mouth.
There's
Like,
a lot.
what?
There's a
We
lot, a
just
lot.
start with all the mercury, right? That's
Yeah.
one of them, right? But look at all the rest of the toxins that the mouth gets exposed to.
Mhm.
And so that's such a phenomenal thing to work on the lymphatics and actually, follow it along the jawline and then down. You still got to get to the drainage points. And that was one of the things why that particular tool had to be created, because the head was kind of left out of the process. So we were getting everything dumping up to here. We weren't dumping anything down. And that's the only place the head can go, is back down to the drainage points.
So how does it get out then? I mean, you're drinking your water, you're flushing things out. Does it go out through your body?
Urination,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, that's basically, and one of the reasons we ask people to drink so much water, because we just don't know what toxins are flushing out, right? Like me, you didn't have anything in the lymphatic system done till you were age 33. Well, I bet there's a whole lifetime of emotions and toxins I was exposed to that needed to get cleared. So the more you drink the water, and most people will say, like sometimes they'll be on the machine, I'm like, okay, I got to run to the restroom now, because we got stuff moving that wasn't moving. The fluid that's down in the ankles wasn't designed to stay there,
Mhm.
right? And that's the sedentary lifestyles too. And so when people walk, the pressure of when they hit the ground with their foot, it opens these valves in the legs, and that's how the lymphatics get moving for normal people.
So would it get blocked, like, to go back into, when you're going from here to here and all that, would it get blocked right here? Like after doing things, is there something people have to
Oh,
do to
yeah.
release all that?
Yeah. So it could, again, it could be physical toxins or emotional. So we're exposed to over 82,000 chemicals a week in the United States. We're working on fixing that now, but it's in our food supply. It's
Mm.
in chemicals that we use in our home, in our yard. I mean, you name it. We've got chemicals all over there. Look at anything, any kind of procedure you get done. You might
Mm.
have anesthesia. You might have, like we talk about dental, right? You got
Mm.
mercury. You could have composite fillings, right? There's all kinds of things. Porcelain. What if that person isn't digging porcelain, the one that just got put in their mouth, the new crown, right?
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that can really impact the body. So the point is, the body will hold on to it to protect you. Okay. Well, this is when people start to have excess weight. I don't know why I can't release that, because
Mhm.
the body's saying, well, I want to release it because it's going to not be good when I release it. And so, why, the lymphatic system can get clogged, just like we talked about the beaver dam.
Yeah.
And so, what we have to do is there have to be ways to emotionally move it. Now, sometimes like a woman with breast cancer, or a woman who gets any kind of breast augmentation.
Mhm.
We now have scar tissue, and scar tissue clogs things up. Scar tissue is the beaver dam all over again.
Mm.
So that's how things get stuck. Or maybe someone goes through an extremely traumatic time. I know a lady recently that she I worked with, that she lost her husband, and the same week he was dying, she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mhm.
How horrible, how horrible is that? How do you deal with those emotions? How does talk therapy deal with that when the emotion's locked in the tissue?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, like, to hear just some of the scenarios, just life. Life happens and things happen. Is it something? I mean, do babies ever have like any kind of like lymph issues or things like that that would be harmful to
Yeah,
little babies?
great question. So let's think about it, right? Here's a baby, um, captive for 9 months. Let's just say mom and dad aren't getting along. So baby's on the inside hearing all this because they hear it. They hear it.
Mhm.
They're, I don't, you ever know anybody whose baby wouldn't come out? I don't want to come out there. It's down dangerous out there, right? So think about a perfect example. I've worked with somebody who had, some issues with weight loss. We do something called a weight metabolism scan. And in that scan, I'm working with the body to find out what's the block. Why won't they release? One of the things we found out was, well, we had a problem with fetal life. Well, mom was an alcoholic. Well, it turns out this person, when they drink alcohol, they balloon up. I mean, boy, do they pack on weight more than the average person. Well, it went back to fetal life. Mom was an alcoholic. So would that affect the baby? Absolutely. Everything mom does affects the baby. But they even have some phenomenal research now too, that they did with our military on how fetal life can even be impacted by what dad's going through. And
Wow.
they did some studies with dad in Iraq, uh, being exposed to mortar fire, gunfire, whatever. And back home, mom, they had ultrasounds on mom or little devices to see what was going on, and baby was jumping every time dad was exposed to gunfire. Is that crazy?
You know what's funny? I'll share a little story with you with my own kids. So, because being a hygienist, while I was pregnant and they heard all the noises and the ultrasonic, all the noises that are in the dental office, it's pretty loud. Even I know, like, um, before, like a couple years ago, I remember wearing my watch one day and it says loud noises, even while you're like trying to work on patients and everything. But my kids are like, they almost fall asleep when they're getting their teeth done
Is that right?
because they're so used to the noises
Mhm.
of the dental office and the smells and everything. I mean, that's what they were brought up with. And I think it's so funny that you say that because, they have no fear of the dentist, because they're so used to the noises.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny. So bringing along with the lymphatics, right? Have you ever heard of what's called a rebounder?
Mm.
It's a mini trampoline.
Okay.
Okay. And it's specifically to get the lymphatics moving. It's a great way to do exercise and at the same time get the lymphatics moving. So, if you actually have a mom who's pregnant and she does things called the health bounce, right? On these little mini trampolines. So she's not leaping off of them, that'd be dangerous. She's just doing a little health bounce. And what happens is the baby is getting in tune with that on the inside. So it's moving the baby's lymphatics too, right?
Wow.
Everything's kind of moving along, right? And so it's really an interesting thing because then when baby comes out, baby's like, I'll go to sleep if you bounce me on that thing over there again. Right?
It's
Yeah.
true. I remember so growing up, I remember like there's the machines that the women would be on, like the workout machines, and it would like I guess it would shake them, and then it would like go up and down, and it didn't even look like anybody was working out. It looked glamorous. I don't know if you remember like any of those old timey
It's
machines.
funny, you reminded me of some I just talked to a lady, like, yesterday or the day before, and she was telling me about she goes, "Remember those old machines and the belt went around you and it just moved?"
Yes.
That goes way back.
I'm thinking, was that maybe they were ahead of things with the lymph system? I
Well,
don't
it was moving
know.
the lymph, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And there's things called vibration plates too. We use those, in the clinic as well after, like, a red light therapy session. Different experience though than the big warm hug, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think that it's such a good analogy about the warm hug because I forget the statistic, maybe but people need so many hugs a day. And when you are isolated and when you are alone, and doing things, I'm a hugger, so I'm always out hugging people. And I'm like, here's your, so many hugs per day, but it gives me that purpose too. When I don't get enough, I feel lower. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like I don't feel so good when I don't get as my hug quota.
No, you're absolutely right. And it boils down to a frequency, right?
Mhm.
The frequency that you feel from a nice hug versus, somebody says a terrible comment to you or something horrible you watch on the news, like war or something. It raises your vibration or lowers it.
What can listeners do on their own? Is there something that somebody can actually besides water and keeping hydrated? Obviously, that's super important.
Hmm.
Is there something that people can actually do on their own to kind of sustain their lymph system?
Yeah. So, two things that come to mind. So, we just talked about the rebounder. So, you want
Yeah.
one of those mini trampolines. Don't get the cheap one. That'll give you joint pain eventually, very quickly, actually. Those are the ones you see in the garage sale
Hmm.
that nobody wants anymore because it hurt their joints, right? You got to get a good one. And so the good ones are, I want to say probably like $300. sometimes a little out of people's budget, but trust me, you want the good one. The one I have today, I've had for 25 years. I've never changed out a spring on it, never had to do anything like that. Use it a lot. And there's some really awesome rebounder, or there were, some awesome rebounder videos. You could do kickboxing on the rebounder, and you could do ballet on the rebounder. And that was actually the hardest one of all for me, was the ballet. But there is, hip hop dance, like there's all kinds of different, rebounder things. So that's one way, and that gets the lymphatics moving. The second thing is dry skin brushing, and that's something that you do before you would bathe. And it's just a very light brushing. I would go on YouTube and maybe find some videos from a lymphatic, somebody who's a specialist in lymphatic skin brushing, because you want to do it the right way. You need to move it to the drainage points. There's a definite flow. You don't want to go against the flow. It's like stroking a cat the wrong way. You don't want to do that.
No, no, not so much. Yeah. So, do you have any other kind of like anecdotes, like any stories besides that? Somebody has come in and, that you might have another story that you want to share of anyone,
Gosh, I
maybe?
tell you, we just had a really phenomenal experience where, well, let me share this. The biggest thing I could tell you about the lymphatics, and you hinted to it earlier, and we didn't really talk nearly enough about it,
Yeah.
but the Flopresso itself is working on the parasympathetic nervous system. So what does that mean to people? Everybody's probably heard of the sympathetic nervous system. That's your fight or flight system. That's the one that helps you run from the tiger, the death by tiger eating. That's what you're afraid of, right? So unfortunately, we're too much of a society where it's no longer fight or flight, death by tiger eating. It's death by I missed a work deadline. And we amp
Mm.
up our stress levels, that fight or flight mode. So that's the sympathetic nervous system at work. What the Flopresso is actually doing, and how the lymphatics come into play, is that's actually calming what we call the going into the parasympathetic rest, repair, rejuvenate mode. So it's calming that system down. And one of the things we've done is a research study was done with the Flopresso specifically with first responders. So I want you to hear this because this is really important.
Yeah.
So, do you know anybody with sleep issues?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
it's
many
all
people
over the
have.
place.
Yeah.
Anybody with stress issues?
Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Anybody with anxiety issues?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you got all three of those, right?
Yeah.
So what happened is, would you say that most people don't have the same sleep issues, anxiety issues, and stress issues that a first responder has? What they see, firemen and police
Yeah.
officers on an everyday basis. They're the ones saving all the rest of us,
Hmm.
right? Who saves them?
Yeah.
So there was a research study done with the Flopresso where they put the police officers on the Flopresso one a week for 3 weeks. One a week for 3 weeks. And let me tell you what happened. They had a 92% reduction in sleep disturbance. They had a 61% reduction in stress and a 53% reduction in anxiety and a 61% improvement in overall well being in 3 weeks.
That's
Isn't
amazing.
that a phenomenal
I
story?
know. I mean, I feel that because, as a single mom and growing up and having to do all these things, and it
Mhm.
gets to you. I mean, there's so, and caring for others and doing hygiene and, all the things that we do. It does. It can be pretty overwhelming. So it's such a blessing to be able to like know you and now learn so much about why your body's so tense and stressed out, and to be able to help yourself, I think it's amazing.
Yeah,
So,
we weren't
yeah.
designed to be as stressed as we are. And that's why we recommend everybody to do the one a week for 3 weeks. If you have a sleep issue, stress issue, or anxiety in the picture, you have hormones and neurotransmitters that are 100% off.
What happens let's talk about the hormones. I know like with the cortisol and the hormones, how does that impact like with your lymphatic system? I know there's swelling, and
Mhm.
when you have all the cortisol, does it help with all that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the study showed, right?
Yeah.
Because with every one of those, so hormones and neurotransmitters in my body talk world, I just call them communicators because they all got to work together. And there's that old saying, when mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. right? And
Mhm.
so when one hormone or neurotransmitter is off, there'll start to be a chain reaction in the body, right? So imagine now you've got somebody that, just everybody's heard of cortisol. Most people have heard of adrenaline, but people don't understand that there's many more stress hormones in that stress response cycle
Mhm.
that the body's dealing with. There's the ones that say, "Oh my gosh, there's a situation coming. I need energy now." Like the mom who lifts the car off the baby, right? Those kind of
Mhm.
adrenaline
Mhm.
things. This is actually what leads into weight gain as well, and it's all connected. And so bottom line is the lymphatics, remember we talked about it needs to flow like a river. If it's the garbage can of the body, what you go through day to day, it's got to find a way to get it out. And the emotional is one of the bigger parts of the lymphatic system. It's got to have a way to process what's happened in the day and help the body move out. This is the good, this is the pure, this is the impure. How do I get it out of my system? And so
Mhm.
many people have to be strong, have to be brave, have to be tough,
Mhm.
and they hold on and don't know how to let it go.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that one completely. I know. So when how do you actually take care of yourself? Like you heal so many people and you do so many things. Is it something you go home? You said you do all your stuff too. Yeah, do you have things that you do once a week
A
that you have
routine?
a ritual?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, God does the healing. I just help facilitate when the person's not in tune with their body. Um, I do have a routine. Um, I call it the 92-point checklist every night. It's the things that, and I have my outlets, right? But we have a lot of tools that I have access to at the office, of course. But there are a few things that I have like in a pinch, if I'm away from the tools, which is actually my original passion was to not work with any equipment.
Mm.
So a lot of what I do, um, with a modality called Body Talk, one of the things I do is give people tools. We teach a class on it, a 1 day layperson's class, where we can give people tools to help balance the brain, deal with a stress threshold issue, where they can help their body be more resilient to stress, help their body better hydrate, help their body address microbes like parasites, viruses, fungus, allergies, and then actually do a whole body realigning, almost like a chiropractor. And we actually teach this to the layperson, so moms or practitioners, anybody who wants to know it. That's one of the tools we use. We have a free tool on our website, which is accesscompletewellness.com. You can go out there, search on the word cortices, cortices, and then we'll give you a free left and right brain balancing technique. It's been phenomenal in helping balance the brain. It's good for helping you think better, more clearly. It's good for waking you up. It's good for going to sleep. It's good for pain. And its biggest claim to fame is it's taken people out of comas.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
powerful
interesting.
technique.
Wow. So I'm thinking aloud, even back to the dental, like when someone has a wisdom tooth that's
Uh-huh.
bothering them, or they have, different things with their gums and the inflammation and all that. It has to have somewhere to drain. There's so many things
Absolutely.
that, yeah, that have to be able to drain. Otherwise, they start to swell.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of concept. And it's in when I was in Germany, I will tell you this, it kinda opened my eyes. The patients that I worked on, were in chronic inflammation because of their teeth, and different situations that they were in and stress levels, and they could have a swollen face like this big, and they weren't in any pain. But their bodies, I'm sure, were it was just chronic inflammation, and I sit there and I think back about how, man, just to be able to they had to be on antibiotics or things like that to help, but it would have been useful to be able to have some kind of lymph drainage
Sure.
with that. I mean, I know we were taking care of him, but there were some significant things that I saw.
Absolutely. And all the teeth are connected to the body. There's
Mhm.
actually certain teeth don't know if you knew this.
I do.
The
Yeah, go
okay.
ahead though.
I don't know if you knew that there are certain teeth
Mhm.
uniquely connected
Mhm.
to the lymphatic system.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and then when someone's got the kind of swelling that you talked about, right? Their body doesn't have an outlet. It sounds like, in that situation, their body's clogged. I'm not saying they don't have an infection or something like that,
Yeah.
but that's how stuff gets to the rest of the body, and it's one of those chicken and egg things, and I know you know some about biological dentistry, of course. I'm
Mhm.
thinking, and there's a connection with organs, endocrines, and body parts to
Mhm.
all of the teeth, and
Mhm.
so sometimes I'd work with people, and it's like, well, what came first? Did the large intestine issue show up first, or did the tooth go bad? And you have to look at that connection, right?
It's
Because if you
true.
want to get to the root, and I don't mean the tooth
Not
root,
the tooth root, but the root
you
of
want
the
to get the
issue.
root of
Yeah.
the issue, right?
Yeah.
You've got to get to, okay, what came first, chicken or the egg? Okay, let's
Mhm.
go. Oh, the real issue is we have a gut microbiome problem.
Yeah.
We clean that up, tooth cleared up.
And it's interesting too because I know you were talking about the connection, and I do know, and I'll real briefly, like when there is like a canine tooth, it's a different organ,
Mhm.
of everything's attached to different things, and it's so our bodies are just so unique, like how they work. But I've always told people that your mouth is it's your skull, it's the only thing of your skull that's showing. And people don't realize that that's part of your skull, and it's the
That's
only thing on
interesting.
your
Yeah, you're
whole
right.
body that actually shows, so we have to take care of our skulls.
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting way to look at it.
So I am we'll kind of wrap up, and I'll kind of is there any like has anything ever gone bad? Like, have you ever had like some weird like session that just went unexpected? I know people go through so many different emotional different things. Is there anything that's kind of you
Yeah,
know
sure. So sometimes, and you mean like a lymphatic session?
Yeah, with
Yeah,
the lymphatic
yeah,
session.
yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes, maybe someone comes out of it. I did mention this earlier, and maybe they don't sleep very well,
Yeah.
even though, and that's because they're pretty toxic, and we're trying to move stuff. Remember, if you haven't had cleaned out the lymphatic system, you haven't cleaned out the garbage can in 35 years, right?
Mhm.
But I've also known people that maybe left with a little more, maybe they had a little more pain in an area that was locked up.
Mm.
So it's locked up, but now we got the circulation going, right? And that's part of the body's natural healing, right? And so somebody be like, well, I didn't have that pain before. I'm like, no, you didn't, but we're getting circulation to an area that's having that was, bigger than it should have been. Right. And so sometimes things like that might come up
Mm.
with a session like that.
So let's talk where to find you. I know you've briefly touched base on where to find you and online all that, and we'll get back to that. Where can we find you?
Well, we're located here in Plano, Texas. And this is where our technology comes in to play, because clearly it works better inside the suit than outside of the suit. And then there's other things that we can do remotely. We can do nutrition sessions remotely. We can do body talk sessions remotely. All of that can be done. Over the phone or over video, just like telemed.
Mhm.
And then our website's the best way to learn about what we do. And that website is accesscompletewellness.com. And then our phone number is 972-712-0892.
And I'll put all that on with the with when we have the post and everything too. So, is there anything else you would like to share?
I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity to be here. And thank you for the opportunity and for sharing with people the importance of all that's going on in their body, because we're not just a body.
Mm.
There's so much more to us. Spirit, soul, body. There's so much more. The emotions, the dimensions, the depth. And so bringing awareness to that is just a phenomenal thing. And bringing awareness to teeth and dental health
Mhm.
is absolutely huge. So many people don't realize you get a tooth fixed, other body parts start to get well. And most, unfortunately, unless they work with you,
Mhm.
most people don't have the knowledge to share that, "Oh, yeah, that tooth that went bad, that's why your right toe's hurting."
It's so true. I do look at things so differently. I've just learned so many different things, and like I said, you have such a wealth of information. So I really do appreciate you being on the show and sharing different things about the lymph system. And we'll close by that healing isn't always loud or dramatic, but it's always available. And Lynn obviously reminded that of us today that softness, stillness, listening to your body, um, paying attention to your lymph system. And, if you have any questions, I will give all the information out. And I really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.